Okay, we're
This
going.
meeting is being recorded.
All right, at 6:15, we'll call the special town meeting to order. At this point, I'll call for nominations for moderator. Do I hear any nominations for moderator?
Is that you, Kevin?
If you want to, sure.
Set us up. I nominate Kevin Dombrowski as moderator.
Is there a second to the nomination?
I'll
Second.
second it, Mary McGrattan.
Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Are there any other nominations? Can I have a motion to close the nominations?
So moved.
Second,
Okay. All those in favor of closing the nominations for moderator, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. In the election of moderator, I call for a motion to nominate Kevin Dombrowski to be the moderator of the town meeting. Who would like to make that motion?
I move to make Kevin Dombrowski the moderator of the meeting.
I'll second.
A second, thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. At this point, I'll ask the town clerk to read the call of the meeting. Patty, you're on.
Town of Ledger Notice of Special Town Meeting, January 26, 2022. A special town meeting of the electors and citizens qualified to vote in town meetings of the Town of Ledger, Connecticut will be held virtually on January 26, 2022 at 6:15 p.m. via Zoom or by audio for the following purposes. Number one, to consider and discuss and vote upon a resolution adopted by the Town Council on January 12th, 2022. A, to appropriate $295,000 for the replacement of the library roof, the town hall roof, and the town hall annex roof. The appropriation may be spent for engineering and construction costs, equipment, materials, legal fees, net interest on borrowings, and other financing costs, and other expenses related to the project or its financing. The town council may reduce or modify the scope of the project, and the entire appropriation may be spent on the project as so reduced or modified. B, to authorize the issue of bonds or notes or obligations of the town in an amount not to exceed $295,000 to provide that the amount of bonds or notes or obligations authorized to be issued shall be reduced by any grants received for the project, to authorize the issue and renewal of temporary notes of the town in an amount not to exceed $295,000 in anticipation of such bonds or notes. C, to determine or authorize the mayor, director of finance, and the treasurer, or any two of them, of the town to determine the amounts, dates, interest rates, maturities, redemption provisions, form, and other details of the bonds or notes or obligations, to make representations and enter into written agreements for the benefit of holders of the bonds or notes or obligations, to provide secondary market disclosure information, which agreements may include such terms as they deem advisable or appropriate in order to comply with applicable laws or rules pertaining to the sale or purchase of such bonds or notes or obligations, and to perform all other acts which are necessary or appropriate to issue the bonds or notes or obligations. D, to take such action to allow temporary advances of available funds, which the town reasonably expects will be reimbursed from the proceeds of borrowings, and to authorize the mayor, director of finance, and the treasurer, or any two of them, to bind the town pursuant to such representations and covenants as they deem necessary or advisable in order to maintain the continued exemption from federal income taxation of interest on the bonds or notes or obligations authorized by the resolution if issued on a tax-exempt basis, including covenants to pay rebates of investment earnings to the United States in future years. E, to authorize the building committee for the project to approve design and construction expenditures, to contract with engineers, contractors, and others on behalf of the town for said project. F, to authorize the mayor, the director of finance, and the treasurer, the building committee for the project, and other proper officers of the town to take all other action which is necessary or desirable to complete the project and to issue bonds or notes to finance and after said appropriation. The full text of each resolution is on file with the town clerk. Pursuant to Section 9 of Chapter 7 of the Town Charter, to consider, discuss, and vote at said town meeting of the aforesaid resolution presented under item number 1 as follows. Shall the town of Ledyard appropriate $295,000 for the town roof replacement projects and authorize the issue of bonds and notes in the same amount to finance said appropriation? Dated at Ledyard, Connecticut, this 13th day of January 2022.
Thank you, Patty. At this point, I'll ask for a presentation. Andra?
You know what, Kevin, I actually thought I was prepared to do the presentation on the ordinance change, but we have with us Steve Juskowitz, and we have, sorry, who else is here? So
Mayor.
The mayor.
the mayor here.
I can touch on the town hall, the annex, and the library maybe when Steve's done.
Okay, I'll just make a brief comment here. I wasn't ready to make a presentation on this, but we have in front of us a resolution today to be able to go out and bond the money to replace the roof on the town hall behind the mayor in the picture, the annex, and the Bill Library, 3 town municipal buildings. At this point here, once this is approved and with the project being handed to the Permanent Municipal Building Committee, we'll begin the process of designing the project, getting bids, using the town purchasing ordinance, advertise, and then be able to award contracts for construction. There's no requirement that it would be one contractor that would do all 3 parts of the work, but we will try to see if we can get economies of scale and mobilization to be able to reduce the overall cost. This is a different project, separate project from anything that we do with the school buildings, which will be in a future town meeting. That's all I have, Mayor, if you want to add anything more to that.
No, I think that covers it. Did that also include the I'm trying to think of the name of the operating system for the school down there, the electronic operating system. Can't think of the name of it right now. I'm sorry.
Maintenance,
I think
but that's not part of this.
Right, that's part of the school project.
Yeah, okay. All right, so I'll just touch on the 3 roofs, the library, the town hall, and the town hall annex. The town hall should have had a little bit more life to it. It's failing a little bit prematurely. We have several 5-gallon buckets in the attic right now collecting rainwater. And in my humble opinion, that's a terrible way to care for an asset of the town. So we need to get this project done. And we figured at the same time we would do the annex because it's just a couple years out. So it's probably a good idea to put the 2 projects together. And again, as Mr. Juskowitz said, probably an economy of scale by doing several roofs at the same time. We do have solar arrays on the town hall and the library, which will both have to be removed. And because they are about 13 years into their useful life, it appears that it doesn't make sense to have them removed and then have them placed back up there with about 7 years of useful life remaining. So we're going to look to surplus the solar panels and consider another solar operation up there that's a little bit more robust. If you've seen the one at the town hall, it's pretty small. It was done kind of as a pilot program, like I said, about 13 years ago. And we don't have any solar array on the annex, and that south-facing roof, which is the one towards the parking lot, could be primed for a solar array as well. Over to the library, it's a pretty steeply pitched roof. It too has some current leaks, and it has a center chimney in it too that is no longer in use from a prior heating system. heating system was removed, and in its place was a direct vent heating system. So we're looking to remove the existing chimney up the center, which is not the historic one. The historic one is in the turret, and but this other one we would remove at the same time and then have the new roof placed over it, so there'd be no patches or anything like that. Those three roofs fall under the 1% of the tax levy, so that requires a town meeting and a vote that way, whereas the school projects are above the 5% threshold, so that requires a vote by voting machine. And I will take any questions that you may have.
At this point, I'll call for any public comments. Mr. Treaster.
Thank you. A couple of questions. The way this bond proceeds are being processed, there's a relatively new technology out. Tesla started it, but there's competition out now for Certainty is making them, GAF is making them, but they're shingles that are also solar panels. They look like shingles, but they generate electricity. And my understanding is that they are not that much more expensive than ordinary shingles. And I was just wondering if anything we're doing this evening will prevent that from happening. And what's in the back of my mind is that the GAFs and the certain tweeds, I think that's what the name of the shingles are called, having those shingles in New England and on a public building that gets tremendous exposure, we might be able to get a special discount from them because as a demonstration project, and it would be something that we can poke and probe at. And I want to make sure that we're not doing anything that says that only shingles can go up on the roof. If they can also be state-of-the-art solar shingles that are coming down the pike. They now exist. They're not up yet to an economy of scale thing, but within probably 6 or 8 or 9 months or so, they probably will be. And we can make a request to their marketing engineers or marketing people and see what can be done. I just don't want to prevent that scenario from happening. So that's one issue. The second issue is that I'm becoming more sensitive to inflation and to our taxes and so forth. The $295,000 is I was wondering how that amount was established. It seems like a lot, even though it's quite a bit of roofing. It can be visualized. It's not like the high school or one of our elementary schools that needs a roof. And I was just wondering what kind of research went into that number. And the third issue is does the town budgeting system anticipate these types of expenses, or are we going to be forced to borrow money each time we need a roof on a town building? And I'm just curious as to how that works. Thank you.
Sure. So I'll start with your last one, which is we typically budget. The public works director has an account for that is set up to handle the maintenance of our buildings. However, it's not robust enough to handle expenses like this. So like the 20 to 30 year useful life expenditures typically aren't covered in that account. So we plan to borrow for things like that. Going to your next question, and let me think, refresh me on your second question, because I know what your first one was. What was your second one again, Eric? I'm sorry.
You're muted, Eric.
Thank you. I want to make sure we do. I think this is the second one. I want to make sure that the bond funds can be used for state-of-the-art coming down shingles that are also solar panels.
Actually, I think that was your first question. The second question was how did we come up with the 295?
Oh, yes, 295.
Okay, so,
how did that number get established?
So I'll start with that one, because we don't typically have people really waste their time doing written bids right now. What we use is Steve Maslin uses the state bid contract, and he will just use that as a kind of a guide. He does have people come out and look at the roofs, but they typically assess them higher than they really need to be, because in the bonding world, we can always bond for less, but we can't bond for more. So if the voters approve X number of dollars and we find out it's X plus 2%, we have a problem. So it's highly likely and probable that the number will come in less than the $295,000 number. It's just we had to kind of go in with a slightly higher number, recognizing both time and a little bit more digging on that. So I'm expecting that the three roofs together will come in less than that 295 number. The last one, and you might be referring to the article that was in the newspaper not too long ago about the solar shingles, and I thought that was fantastic too. So I jumped on it and reached out to GIF, and they have only piloted that right now in Pennsylvania and another Western state, I believe it is. But their feeling is that they're at least a year away from us. So when I had my conversation with them and I told them that it was a kind of a high profile government building and it could be a great pilot for them, they said, well, that's great, but we are still about a year away from being able to get into that market. The Tesla shingles, apparently there's as much as a 2-year wait for those right now. So I too would love to see those happen. I love the concept and how the GAF shingles they just kind of lay right down with your roof. So it's not a solar panel mounted to the roof. I just don't know that we can hold on long enough to wait for that to get here. Like I said, we already have water leaking through the roof into the rafters and plywood, and we don't want to have further problems. But I do really appreciate what you said about the solar tiles.
Okay. On the existing panels, I remember voting for those panels when we were in the design district, and they had to be approved by the Architectural Review Board. So those solar panels are sort of an interesting subject to me. At the time,
Eric, I'd like to move on to see if anybody else has any questions.
I was just wondering what was going to happen to them. Why not reinstall them temporarily while we wait? Because apparently the bonding will not cover replacement panels.
Right. So what we were told by the electricians was that it was essentially the cost to take them down and to put them back up and put new penetrations in the new roof didn't make sense for the, I guess, 7 years of useful life remaining, understanding that the ability for those older panels to generate electricity has declined over time. So our plan was to remove them both from the library and the town hall, and then actually put them in the surplus sale and try to generate some residual value from them.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else who has any questions or comments? Seeing no one else. Okay. So I'll call for a vote on the question. Shall the town of Ledyard appropriate $295,000 for the town roof replacement projects and authorize the issuance of bonds and notes in the same amount to finance said appropriation? At this time, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone. At this point, I'll close the special town meeting.
Okay, just give me a